dogs are veterinary dogs. Either subjective or big, or you give your reasons. But then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to look what the other side would argue and explain why that argument is not as strong as yours.
Can we record you, David?
Clip that on when we get done with that. There you go.
Just so we can hear your argument. Thank you.
All right, now I'm nervous.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So when you're looking at dogs are better than cats, you have to take a look at the other side, the opposing view, the person who is arguing that cats are better than dogs. And that other side, usually you handle that side by usually saying something like, some may say cats are better than dogs because cats are more independent. You don't have to wait on them hand and foot. Then you would counter argue that opposing view. And then you have to explain why the independence of cats is not a strong enough argument to discount your own. So that's what I mean by counter argument. And could anybody see, if you were a doctor and you were told, spend 15 minutes just listening to your patient tell stories about their grandma and how it hurts their back when they lift garbage cans, et cetera, et cetera. Can anybody think of an argument that a doctor may give to not want to do that? No? Well, it's okay. We will see as we read through that there are counter arguments in this piece that the author then addresses. I never liked the term counter argument. That's what they always use in school. I like the term handling the opposing view. Because when the opposing view comes up, you as an author should think about it and be able to handle it to either discount their argument or explain why their argument is not as strong as yours, or even sometimes, yes, you're right, however, and then move on and explain why that argument is not as strong as your argument. Anyway, we were on paragraph, I believe, 4. Is that correct?
Yep, that's where we left off. We read paragraph 3, so.
We read paragraph
I think
3.
you caught everybody up to where.
Yeah, and I caught you all up. So I'm going to take paragraphs 4 and 5. Remember, we're annotating as we read. So annotation is if you have a question about a particular section or sentence, you put a question mark next to it. If you think it's very important, put an exclamation point next to it. If you agree with something, you can put a check mark, like, yes, I agree. If you disagree, you can put an X. Say, wait a minute, I have an argument against that. This is this interacting with the text allows your brain to be active as you are reading, and you don't just passively accept whatever's coming in. Are we ready? Paragraph 4.
Before we get started, I'm sorry, can I just ask, is Maria here? Okay, excellent, okay. And then I see that Marius is here. And then, is there anybody else who's here all 3 times? Yes, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And your name again is? Verania.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Verania. We have Marius. Was there anybody else? Yes,
Maria.
and Maria. Those just the 3?
Do you need to mark those?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Paragraph 4 or 5. Ready? In the effort to help doctors understand what they and their patients experience in the presence of illness, medical educators have been paying increasing attention to narrative competence, defined as the set of skills required to recognize, absorb, interpret, and be moved by the stories one hears or reads. This competence requires a combination of textual skills, identifying the story structure, adopting its multiple perspectives, recognizing metaphors and allusions, creative skills, imagining many interpretations, building curiosity, inventing multiple endings, and affective skills, tolerating uncertainty as the story unfolds, entering the story's mood. Together, these capacities endow a reader or listener with the wherewithal to get the news from stories and to begin to understand their meanings. When a doctor practices medicine with narrative competence, he or she can quickly and accurately hear and interpret what a patient tries to say. The doctor who has narrative competence uses the time of a clinical interaction efficiently, bringing all possible medical knowledge from what a patient conveys about the experiences of illness and how he or she conveys it. Not only the story of an illness, but the illness itself unfolds as a narrative. A disease has a characteristic time course, a complex mixture of causality and contingency, singular differences from and genetic sameness to related diseases, a textual tradition with which it can be understood, and even a metaphorical system that reveals it. Consider, for example, the complex metaphorical meaning of the word immunity, which we can dig into, but I don't think we will have time for that. Narrative competence gives the doctors not only the means to understand the patient, but fresh means to understand the disease itself. Again, this is a complex reading. So I don't blame you if you put a lot of question marks through there. But I think, is there anybody in there, or maybe we should try it this way. You read it, we've read it. What do you think is the most important line in those two paragraphs to pull out? If it's those two paragraphs, and someone missed this class, what would you tell them? This is the sentence, or this is the line that is the most important one we read there. Thank you. That's a good one. That sort of sums up those two, right? Here's what narrative competence does. I have a question, though. What is narrative competence? Can anybody find the definition in here?
The set of skills required to recognize, absorb, interpret, and remove.
That's the definition. And you could tell that because in paragraph 4, the second sentence, well, that's the first sentence. That's a long sentence. Toward the end of the first sentence of the paragraph 4, you see the word defined, right? Defined as. So that's your key word to let you know that they're telling you what narrative competence is. And there's a lot there. Recognize, absorb, interpret, and be moved by. That be moved by is an interesting terminology. It means that you don't just read the story to understand the plot, or you don't just read the story to recognize the metaphors that are being used in it. But there is a deeper level, and for those of you reading To Kill a Mockingbird, if you remember, that book is set in the 50s in the South, when racial discrimination was powerful. No, it's even earlier than the 50s, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the 40s.
Might be the 40s, but it's set in the South in a time of segregation. And that's when the book was written and set so that the people who read it will understand emotionally what the author is trying to say and hopefully be moved. I don't want to spoil the ending. I don't know how far you guys are in it.
Are you guys reading To Kill a Mockingbird?
In Lit, in AP Lit.
Oh, wow.
They said.
Yeah.
So there's more to a story than the plot structure, right? And you know, most stories have a plot structure as introduction, complication, things happen, climax, things resolve. That's the general story. That's the general structure of most stories. I think Kurt Vonnegut, famous author, said there's two main structures. Someone starts out good, goes bad, becomes good again. Or someone starts out bad, goes good. Unless you have a bad ending, in which case if he starts out good, goes bad, ends, which is a dystopic novel, but that's beside the point. So there are certain things that you need to be able to do in order to recognize, absorb, interpret, and be moved by stories. If you're too busy trying to figure out what the words mean, you won't be able to recognize the story pattern. If you get to the level of story pattern, which is what most people consider when they say I'm literate, is I can recognize the beginning of the story, there's the complication, there's the rise in action, the climax, and the conclusion. That's a surface level literacy, right? I recognize the story, I can relate the story to you. But then there's deeper stuff that sort of, as you read it, you don't know if, I'm going to say his name is Tom. The African American, the black guy in the story, his name is Tom, right?
Tom Bailey, yeah.
Yeah. So Tom Robinson. Tom Robinson.
Thank you.
So as you go through The Kill a Mockingbird, you have to keep that open idea of Tom Robinson is accused of things. Is he guilty or not? What other possibilities are there? You have to keep those open. And as you transition it back over here to medicine instead of literature, as you interview a patient and the patient says that, my back hurts, and then you go through, then you find out that you have to keep open to the fact that it might just be more than musculoskeletal issues. And that's causing that back pain. So you have to be open and listening for things besides just the medical, physical aspects.
Anybody that was here last week, resonate like, do you remember we were talking about those first couple of paragraphs? Does anybody remember? Does this kind of ring true about some of that first paragraph where you're talking about chief symptoms and no one's ever listened to me before? The patient started breaking up crying. If you look at paragraph 1, that last sentence of paragraph 1,
I asked him why he cries.
I asked him why he cried, and he says, no one's ever listened to me before. And does anybody remember anything else about those few paragraphs that we read last Saturday?
Connecting to what I was
No,
just saying?
connecting to what you were just saying about listening to the whole patient. That you're not just listening for their medical kind of story, but the power of storytelling. And that's a really important part of what Vallejo Project tries to get people to think about, the power of storytelling. Because narrative, when you're learning how to tell a story, what is your narrative? Listening for other people's narrative. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And it just contextualizes your experience of life. Because the experience of life, being born and then dying eventually, is a really hard concept for us as human beings to really sit with. That arc of what our life means, of what it means to have a good life, is a challenging experience to just kind of sit with, especially like as you guys are going off into various different directions of your careers. You have so much possibility. It can be a little bit intimidating to think of the vast amount of experiences that you will or might experience, right? And so sometimes people feel anxious, but when you cut it down to a small bite-sized story, every day has a story. In fact, there are many different stories in every single day. So holding on to a narrative, to your narrative, your narrative for the day, to someone else's narrative for the day, can really help you compartmentalize life into segments so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. And this is part of the story that we've been learning about these doctors. These doctors get overwhelmed by all of the stories of the sick people that they see, right? They see so many different people. Every 15 minutes, another person with a major illness. How do you compartmentalize that and say, okay, I'm going to put that into this box? They compartmentalize it by writing a story, by having a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's one little experience. I'm not going to let this one experience overwhelm me. And so that's why I think narrative can be a transferable skill, not only for yourself personally, for your life, so that you don't get overwhelmed. You can compartmentalize something and make that just part of your story. This is not the end of your story, right? This is just one little paragraph of the page of what will be the book of your life. So it's helpful for these doctors who are experiencing lots of different people, but it also can be helpful for you to be able to slow down and compartmentalize stories and events and experiences that you have in your life so that they don't take up more space than they need to in your heart, in your mind, in
And,
your soul.
and the necessity of telling the story brings it back into your brain, into your system, so that you can then process, as opposed to pushing it down and keeping it there and letting it eat the inside of you. So, and basically, in short, journal. You should journal, as it says here, on paragraph 3 at the bottom, by rendering whole that which they observe and undergo, doctor writers can reveal transcendent truths exposed in the course of illness about ordinary human life. That's less about processing in, but more about expanding out. But journaling will help you process the things. Just journaling is like live action dreaming, because dreaming helps you process what went on during the day, because your dreams tend to reflect what happened during the day. It's your brain and trying to interpret and incorporate what you did during the day. Journaling is a more conscious effort of doing that.
So is there anybody here that journals? No, but really?
Not even I.
Yeah, something you can say. That was very popular when I was in middle school. My grandmother really enforced it, but other students that I knew also journaled. They either journaled about their dreams, they journaled about school, they journaled about their hobby. Like some of them were musicians or artists or different things like that, and so they had a journal where they wrote about their art or whatever it was that they were passionate about outside of school. My journal was generally about my dreams. So it was it felt like so from probably about 12 to 17, I had 20 journals where every morning I woke up and tried to write down what I remembered about my experience of dreaming. And so it was interesting to go back, like at 15 to look at what I wrote at 13, at 17 to look at what I wrote, it was really interesting. So it really can be a snapshot to help you kind of remember the feelings, the mentality, the, kind of reality that you experience, what you were eating, your friends were, how you were, because those things were coming up in my dreams. So it's something that can help you kind of track and also compartmentalize.
You
Yeah,
want me to share something?
absolutely.
For a minute there, I thought I was going to be a stand-up comic. And so I have all of these notepads, like probably 10 of them just written up with jokes and skits. And that was back in 2015. And it's hilarious to go back and just see the mind frame of me trying to stir up stuff. But the thing is by writing them down, you see that. And then years later, that idea has kept progressing and getting better and better. And it's like one day, hopefully, you bring it in reality. But it is so true about writing down and scripting your days before, or even your progress. Or I just thought I'd share.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm trying to listen to what gather it on so like when I do their interviews.
And can you share also how you have actually made a reality of comedy in Vallejo?
Well, I guess I could tell you the old saying is it takes you 7 years to get a successful business. Now, that never was really true for me in the business world of making money happen real quick. But this, trying to get an entertainment and how long it takes to get a following and trying to and you can get overwhelmed trying to figure out how do I get my name out there without smashing my hand or jumping off a building or doing some goofy skits, but actually doing good content. When I was doing stand-up, I didn't like that I was offending people. I didn't like that my parents didn't want to watch my comedy. I was like, I want to always be an entertainer. So now what I do is I create content like this, trying to expose the good things, especially about our city. And so it's been about a 5-year journey. I'm an OzCat radio host. I don't know if you guys ever do Vallejo Crime and Safety, Vallejo Community. You ever see the treasure hunts and stuff that are going on or any of that stuff? That's us. Yeah, the trunk or treat. We do a lot of events, and it's amazing how much it's important to get out in your community and network and meet people and get their ideas. And you realize that you have to be around people to enhance yourself. So this is awesome. I'm trying to figure out. So are you using reading and then breaking it down to how it focuses on your own life. Is that what's going on?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yep.
The big idea here is that see the importance of narrative competence to interviewing patients. And then they're going to interview themselves, so to speak, through journaling to tell the story of their own health. And then they're going to flip and become their own doctor and then make prescriptions for themselves, prescriptions of activities and such.
So like how much they weigh, what their pulse is, like, just kind of understanding their own health. What, like my blood pressure at this time of day, was this, and tracking that over a period of time, noticing, oh, I get really anxious around 2:00. Or, oh, I'm putting on weight. Oh, I'm losing weight. Oh, this is my experience of my body. So it's really just bringing some mindfulness to what you're experiencing yourself in your own body. But you will also use these skills transferably when you're engaging through the CNA and other programs that you're in at Vallejo High School, because you will engage. And that's another opportunity for people who need to make up a day. There's a volunteer day where you can do 2 hours volunteering with homeless. But you'll have doctors and nurses there, and you'll be a part of the staff volunteering as they serve homeless people. So you would just be observing and writing notes, and you might even get to listen to how they interview the homeless patients that they're working with. So that's the other way that you can make up your 2 hours for any of the vendors. And I also have this up. I don't know if this is one of the useful ones to have up or not, but we have. I mean, the golden line seemed to be like what?
But
I don't need to have that up.
no.
Okay.
Because we're not following the structure of this.
Okay.
Because then it would be 3 weeks.
Okay.
And we don't have the time.
Yeah.
Speaking of the time, I'm tired of my voice. Could someone take 6 and 7 for me?
At least 6.
Or at least 6. 6 and 7 are thematically together.
Okay.
But if you want to just read 6, go ahead. And then popcorn 7. So name somebody.
Feel free to name me too.
To enter a story is to make room for it. And the doctor with narrative skills habitually confirms the patient will in the process of the tendency of what he or she tells. Such a doctor will demonstrate concern for a patient while concentrating on and as a result can achieve the genuine intersubjective contact required for an effective therapeutic alignment. This competence includes an awareness of the complexity of the relationship between seller and listener, a relationship marked by deep and gratitude.
Again, tough. But let's look at 7. We'll come back to the 2. You want to popcorn to somebody?
What was once considered a civilizing veneer for the gentleman physician, reading literature, studying humanities, writing in literary ways of practice is now being recognized as central to medical training. Capacities that medicine now sometimes lacks: attunement to a patient's individuality, sensitivity to emotional or cultural dimensions of care, ethical commitment to patient despite fragmentations and subspecializations, acknowledgement and then prevention of error may be provided through a rigorous development of narrative skills, perhaps strengthening the narrative competence of doctors might help them to achieve such elusive goals as
Humanism.
humanism and professionalism by providing them with graduated skills in adopting patients' points of views, imagining what they endured, deducing what they need, and reflecting on what physicians themselves undergo in caring.
Again, as I said, this is written for the New England Journal of Medicine. It's a tough read, and I applaud you for reading that very smoothly, both of you. Turn to an elbow partner and tell me, thinking of golden line. Let's try the golden line. In those two paragraphs, give me a golden line. The line in there that you think, and turn to an elbow partner and tell them what you think is the golden line and why you
Should we
think so.
switch the golden, or are we gonna do the same partners?
Let the kids talk amongst themselves. You want to talk to me?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So Kim, you guys, we're gonna switch it up a little bit, so then.
You two, you two, you two, and you two.
Okay.
Turn to a youth partner
So you
and
guys
tell
are gonna
them
be
which
commenting.
do you think is the golden line.
Introduce yourselves first if you don't know the person you're working with.
Give you a minute to find the golden line and then a minute to share.
Okay, so this is paragraph 6 and 7.
That's it.
Is it working? Oh, sorry, yeah.
Which one do you think is?
Yeah.
And I'll probably cut it into
Exactly.
part part
Yeah.
and text me exactly.
So enter a
And is it just okay or Venmo?
just to make the room for storyteller instead of to walk he or she.
I would say the last sentence of
So which one do you think?
Okay, so in terms of 6, I think that so sorry to go. You know, it's interesting for me. It's like the second sentence in these paragraphs seems to be really important and powerful. But I guess this is just a really long first sentence.
I see the second part of the first sentence.
The second part
Yeah.
of the first sentence.
The
Empathy and reflection.
Central to Medical Training for Empathy and Reflection.
Seems to be.
What was once considered a veneer is now central to training for empathy and reflection.
Exactly.
The aspects of humanities.
Mhm.
The humanities is important for, yeah,
What would you say is gold line?
that's the one I marked.
Oh, okay.
In the first one, the first sentence, I have a debate. Guys, I have a debate. In the first in paragraph 6, I'm trying to think which one is the more important line for the capturing of the sense of this. The first one I marked was to enter a story, ... confirms the patient's worth, right? So it does for the patient. But I also have highlighted here, as a result, entering the story can achieve ... can achieve the genuine intersubjective contact required for an efficient therapeutic alliance. And I might have to break that one down apart. With the genuine intersubjective contact means that it's not me over here and you over there and you present your illness and I give it, but that we mesh together intersubjective so that I see you as a human being and interact with you as a human being, not just a doctor. And that kind of contact is required for a therapeutic alliance. And a therapeutic alliance is not me telling you, take this pill and do this exercise and go out my office. A therapeutic
coach.
It's like having a coach. It's therapeutic alliance is here's what I see as an issue. Here are some possibilities. Let's discuss. Do you agree with these issues? And do you agree with, what do you think about these possibilities? We have 4 different possible drugs. This one, this one, this one, this one. Here's what they can do for you. Here's the problems. What do you think? Right? So it's an alliance. You're working together with the patient.
You see the value shift there? I mean, in the same way education is going through a similar transition. Like in Oakland now, there's a movement called No Decision About Us Unless We're Involved. And so 16-year-old high school students are able to vote in the school board elections. So you guys have a say in who gets to represent you as the school board because they're making decisions that directly impact your education. So it's kind of like that in the same way that the patient should have a say in the kind of treatment that they receive, that the student should have a say in the type of education that they receive. That this is not just big me, little you, you're part of a institution and they're spitting you out and doing this stuff to you. It's like, no, let's have a conversation. We're having an equitable exchange about my education, about my health, about my job, that the value system shift there is that it's not just the employer makes these decisions and you have to do this. It's like, hey, I'm an individual, you are an individual. We have a respectful exchange so that this is what I want to know. This is what I want to learn. This is who I am and how I interact with what you're trying to get from me.
Yeah, but it kind of goes to the idea of leadership. Some people think leadership is I'm in charge, do what I say. When in truth, the stronger leadership is, do we agree on these priorities and these goals? And if we do, I'm trying to convince you that, and with your input, that this is the best way to achieve it. Now let's work together to get there. Right? So
there's buy-in.
So going back to my debate, I have the highlight sentence confirms the patient's worth. Entering the story means that you are worthy, right? You have worth. And then I have entering the story allows us to have intersubjective contact to become allies in your health. Which of those two sentences should be the golden sentence?
Like you just by show of hands, or one or two?
Just you can just shout out. Which one do you guys think? We can do a fingers up. If you think entering the story confirms the patient's worth is the most important line there, get up one finger. If you think entering the story can achieve the genuine intersubjectiveness required for therapeutic alliance is the most important one, hold up two fingers.
As the golden line.
As the golden line. Which is the key line there?
I think
I'm seeing a lot of twos and some unknowns.
we say a couple of ones.
A couple of ones. Does anybody want to argue for the one? Anybody want to argue against the two? Anybody want to argue for the two? Why do you put two?
Or why you put one?
Or why you put one? I'm thinking about why
you argue for one, I argue. But I want to hear their voices, you know.
That's what I'm trying to get.
Why don't you give them some time to talk, share with the partner their golden line? Because they
makes sense. Sorry. Yes. This room's not very good for shifting positions, but maybe share someone across the table. So across. I guess if you want to come down here, you want to come over there to her. Just trying to mix it up so that people talk to different people.
We're gonna talk together.
Yeah, so that, which one's your golden line in paragraph 6 or 7? I'll come down here. So which one do you get?
I chose the second one because I feel like
What do you think?
just first, like you shouldn't be able to just like determine the patient's worth on the story. It's more important for you guys to have that connection. Another level too, so just not just treating them and also trying to see like they said. Sometimes it's just a story, just not doing.
Got you. So the you are worthy is good, but making a connection between the two so that we can treat the illness is a higher goal. Got it. What'd you get for 7? What'd you get for 7? You get anything?
I put.
Number 1 is.
I thought that that was also important that they also said what it lacks now. They said that medicine now sometimes lacks
Attunement to the patient's individualities. Medicine lacks this. And as for me, I put that the humanity in the literature is essential to medical training for empathy and reflection. That's what I put.
With the therapeutic alliance.
And the reason it's central is because medicine currently lacks that dimensional care is what you put.
Yeah.
Okay. Either of those is legitimate.
By looking at the patient's point of view and how they feel and how they Okay.
Where's number 2? 6. Oh, down there. Okay.
Can achieve the genuine. Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And again, if this were school and we were digging deep, because this is almost, if you're an AP Lit, that means you probably were an AP Lang, right? And you might recognize an AP Lang, this would be a 3-day process and to read through this, and then you would have an essay.
So
But
this is great prep for all of you juniors that are going to be going into. You might consider pressuring yourself into AP, but the quality of the work that we're doing here is, graduate school, university level.
yeah, freshman university.
Yeah.
This comes from something called expository reading and writing curriculum, which is designed to be a bridge for seniors from high school English to college English. And so it's right in that, if you want the reading level of this, it'll be the summer between high school and college. That's about right where this is targeted. So again, congratulations for reading through this. It's complex and deep and rich. And we're not going to be able to delve into all of it because we go on paragraph 8.
So we have 5 minutes before we take a break. During the break, we hope to interview at least 1 or 2 people. So please, think to yourself, maybe 2 people at a time if you want. If you go, yeah, perfect, awesome, that'd be great. And then want to just summarize what those golden lines were, so that you can just share out which one that you would say is the golden line. And as we're
sharing the interview during the break time for 1 hour. So you only have to do the thing, and then we have to do all of them too.
Wait, I have a question, Ms. Adjua.
Yeah.
So everyone who missed the meeting had to do the interview, right?
Yes.
And the Canva.
That's right.
Okay. So it's not choose one.
Yes.
It's two. Together. Okay. Me and her are gonna do this. What? Oh, you did everything. Yeah. Didn't you give her a credit already?
That's right.
So all we have to do is like the Canva itself.
Right. So maybe it's the Canva.
Doing the interview because you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll also
just to
give
help
you-
your friend.
We'll also give you practice of what we're talking about. Telling your story, right? It gives you practice in this
Yes,
narrative
so I invite all
idea.
of you. I hope, I just invite you. It's an invitation, open invitation to all of you to do the interview, because, if you
Because
want.
your voices are important.
Because your voices are important, and it would be good.
And it'll confirm your worth, and it'll allow us to.
Huh?
No.
Some of you missed a day, so for the people who missed a day, the interview and the Canva article. So you weren't here when we showed the Canva article. Okay, so the Canva article is. Yes, that's right. So let me show you. I'm going to send it in the thread that we have. You'll see a link. You'll open the link, and then you guys do an article about the other person. So let's take a quick break. We'll go out to the garden, stretch our legs, and then we'll come back and finish the last half of the class. Okay? So are you going to help your friend, Maria? Come on.